Hey everybody, my name is Owen. I am the manager at Knifewear Vancouver, and I just recently got back to my very first trip from Japan. I went along with Kevin Kent, the CEO at Knifewear, and it was a whirlwind. We made our rounds. We visited tons and tons of different blacksmiths, went to a lot of different workshops all across the country. It was an amazing and life-changing experience. I'd always really wanted to visit Japan. It had always been pretty high on my list, and getting this opportunity to go not only visit this place, but also have some doors open for me that wouldn't be there if I just went by myself. It was a really fantastic experience. So everybody always tells you how many people live in Tokyo, or how big this place is, or how large the city is, and you can sort of look and say, yeah, I know, it's like the biggest metropolitan area in the world. But getting there and actually seeing it for the first time was actually really, really overwhelming. I really appreciated being able to go with Kevin because this is like his 20th trip there or something like that, right? But when we arrived in Tokyo after getting off of the train at Narita and just walking into the city, and he was just like, we're going this way, we have to go that way, we're gonna go do this, and we have all this stuff to do. And I'm just like, buddy, just give me a second. Like, you can do all this research and you can look up, Wikipedia pages, you can read all these travel guides and stuff, but nothing will really prepare you for that massive shock of just like, this is fucking Tokyo. This place is insane. The food was next level. I didn't even have anything approaching mediocre. It was, I was a chef for a very long time, and I really love to cook, and I really appreciate, good food and cooking and all that jazz. And even just like meals on the train, you stop and get a bento before you hop on a Shinkansen, and like it's just everything is good. Like it's incredible. Like the amount of effort that they go through to make food a pleasant experience no matter where you are is incredible. Like you go to a 7-Eleven and you buy a little onigiri snack, and it's wrapped in such a way so that you can peel off all of the plastic, and the seaweed has never touched the rice until it's ready to eat. Like, the amount of engineering and thought that goes into it can be pretty incredible. But then also the simplicity of it is also, it's really something to admire. We went to this restaurant with Shibata-san, Kevin and I, and it was a restaurant that I think it was standing for about 200 years. It was a third generation chef. They had one single item on the menu. It was this really crazy soup kind of thing. Stuff like that just doesn't really exist here or anywhere else in the world as far as I can tell. The amount of care and the amount of time and the amount of love that goes into food and cooking over there is really next level. It's reflected in their culture, and it's a big reason as to why I think they make the best knives in the world as well. Like, all of this equipment, all of these tools to practice this craft, whether it be a family restaurant or making meals for a fucking train station. Like, they just care more about it. It's really amazing. My favorite part was maybe visiting Moritaka Hamono in Yatsushiro. It's a very, very, very old workshop. They call it the new house. It's like something like 500 years old or something like that. And it's just, I was really surprised. It was just like right in the middle of town. Like, it was across the street from the post office. And you just you pull up in the car, and we could already hear the spring hammer going. Just walking into this little teeny tiny old workshop, with a lot of makeshift tools and a lot of a little bit of grime, a little bit of dirt. Like, it was an old school blacksmithing workshop where they make some of the coolest knives in the world. Like, it was so much different than somebody else's trip to Japan might have been. Like, this is something that not a lot of people get to do and experience. So forging at Moritaka Hamono, I was informed by Kevin before I even touched any of the equipment that their hammer is pretty easy to use. I was watching this guy work with this thing. I was like, yeah, it doesn't really look that easy to use. But at the actual forging process, he sort of helped guide me through and sort of explain to me where the hammer needs to go and how hard and how all of this stuff. And it was almost like a log or something you sort of lean against, and your foot goes onto the pedal. And once you start hammering, once you sort of start feeling the pressure of the machine, it gives you sort of a sense of how this thing is going to push everything around, and sort of maintaining that sort of steady hand and that sort of that guidance is incredibly difficult when you're working with a tool like that's that powerful. Their workshop is really, really old school. They do, their own lamination in-house. They attach their own tangs in-house. They anneal their blades with hay ash. Like it's about as old school as it can possibly get. So the process with them is a little bit slower. I only got to experience working with the hammer in that workshop, and then they finish up the rest of the process later on, and I'll have my knife sent out to me. Whereas in Takafu it was a little bit of a larger operation. Entering Knife Village, it's a beehive. Like there are so many people working away, sort of doing their own little job. Yoshime Kato was the guy who sort of guided me through and set me up with one of his apprentices to help make my knife, where we did the entire process in the period of about an hour and a half. It was fantastic. Like he guided me through how to get the steel up to 800 degrees in the forge and how to sort of tell when it's around that temperature, do the actual basic forging against the spring hammer. We then also annealed the knife, and we cold hammered the knife, and we cut the knife into shape. We did the engraving, we did the heat treatment, we did the quenching, we did the sharpening, all there on site. It was really fantastic to sort of actually get, because I've read about how knives are made, I've watched videos, but actually doing the work, it really, really goes to show how special each of these individual pieces that they produce for us are. And the amount of time and the amount of effort and the amount of skill that all of these guys possess is just, it's absolutely mind-blowing, the amount of practice that these guys have had and the dedication they have to their craft. So my second ever night in Japan was at Teruyasu Fujiwara's 150th anniversary of his blacksmithing workshop, which was one of the most insane experiences of my entire life. It was at a little sort of hot springs area, a part of the Tokyo metro area called Atami, and it was this really old school hotel that Kevin Shiba and I stayed in. And it was an onsen party. So an onsen is a Japanese bathhouse. So my second ever night in Japan, I got to go chill out in a hot tub naked with a bunch of Japanese knife makers, which was immersion pretty much right off the bat. It was a little bit overwhelming, but it was super relaxing. Like it was a lot of fun. Like I understand why these things are popular. I had a really good time at this event. After we get out of the bath, you put on your hakata, which is sort of like it's like a really fancy Japanese bathrobe. And I thought we were just going to go back up to the room and change into our clothes, but no, we just have incredibly fancy dinner in your bathrobe. So part of our trip entailed us going to visit Sakai, which is a big knife making mecca. I didn't realize that it was actually just sort of part of Osaka. Like it's a few stations away from Namba, right where we were staying, sort of in a downtown area. It was very metropolitan, where we got to meet with a few different manufacturers. We visited Takayuki Sakai. We got to visit the knife gallery, which was a lot of fun. We visited Hado Sakai and met Maru Yamasan, the head sharpener there, who was just such a wonderful guy. He sort of taught me how to use the big sharpening wheel, which is an experience that I was really looking forward to. Their sharpening techniques there are absolutely incredible. I think that they have their stuff dialed in to one of the sharpest tees that's available. Their attention to detail when it comes to blade performance and the overall fit and finish of the knife, I feel is really incredible. We also visited a couple blacksmiths who work with Sakai Kikumori. We visited Tanaka-san, who is a really old school blacksmith who works with his son in the absolute messiest workshop I have ever seen in my life. There are just planks and knives and scraps of metal and stuff everywhere. It was like walking around a minefield. And we also visited Nakagawa-san, who is a very young blacksmith. I think he's about the same age as I am. But watching him work was just incredible. Like he's so fast, just sort of working his Nimai steel straight from the bar, able to hammer faster than anybody else I've ever seen. His workshop was just so tidy and clean and pristine. It was such a stark contrast to the really old school guys. So it made me sort of think that some of these younger guys are thinking about their jobs a little bit differently than a lot of the more old school smith is. And I mean, that would make sense, right? Like the world has changed a lot, And just because your dad was the blacksmith does not necessarily mean anymore that you have to be the blacksmith. So I think that a lot of people who are getting involved in this industry now are people who are extremely interested in the industry, which I think overall is a really good thing. Like Maruyama-san from Hado Sakai is in his late 30s, and this is his third job. This is his third career that he's embarked on, which is really, really unusual in that society. So it's great to see this sort of, I wouldn't say like sea change or anything that dramatic, but it's certainly a bit of a different culture, a bit of a different sort of mindset that's entering the industry right now. Oh, we visited Kumamon Park, which was the strangest and most surreal thing that I have ever seen in my life, because Kevin, Akiko, and myself were the only 3 people at the park. It is used as a hub for cruise ships to come and land, but it was not cruise ship season, so no one was there. Just literally hundreds of Kumamon poking their heads around bushes. There was a choir of them. It was really, really weird. If you're planning a trip to Japan, make the time to visit Kyushu. Everybody there is going to tell you how far away Kyushu is and how long it takes. It does not take that long. It is not that big of a place. Soak in a little bit of the nightlife in Osaka. Tokyo was probably the craziest city I've ever been to, but I felt really kind of comfortable and a little bit more at home in Osaka. It's just sort of got a different vibe to it there. Just visit a few of the bars. We sort of just wandered around the Namba neighborhood for a couple of nights and had just an absolute blast both times. It was fantastic. If you have the opportunity to go make a knife or go visit the guys up in Takafu Knife Village, next year in 2024, the Shinkansen will have a station in Takafu, so it's really, really easy to get to from Tokyo, so you can go and visit these guys in their amazing workshop. I'm really excited about the knife industry in general going forward. When I started this job about 8 years ago, pretty much all of our blacksmiths were little old dudes. But nowadays we're seeing a big shift into the next generation, these younger blacksmiths who are really, really, really passionate about, function and form and aesthetics and just sort of, they're passionate about making these tools. It's a little bit different nowadays, we see a little bit more variety in the look of the blade and the handle, and some new ideas with some new types of steel. People aren't just doing things because that's how dad did it, because that's how dad did it, because that's how dad did it. There's a big shift going on right now, and it's really, really exciting for me. Being able to visit these workshops and visit these craftsmen was a huge deal for me. This is something that I've been passionate about pretty much all my life. I've always loved to cook. I've always loved having a sharp tool, and being able to actually physically visit these shops where these knives are made was just an invaluable resource to me. It gives me so much more perspective on the craft of knife making, and so much more perspective on these guys and their lives and how they live and sort of their philosophies behind what they do. It was a really life-changing experience, and I'm really grateful and I'm really thankful that it's something that I got to experience.
What is your impression?
My impression? I love Springhammer. I love the blacksmithing. I'm so proud of my knife. That was incredible. That was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my life. Yeah, and I want to practice and I want to get better.
Okay.
Yeah.